We're going to start. Okay, so everybody has been, everybody knows now that there's a recording now, it's going in process. So you have 20 minutes now and 10 minutes for question. Thank you very much for your presentation. I hope you will enjoy it. The floor is yours, Marco.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you everybody for being here. Yes, we wanted to tell you a little bit about online student response systems and some of the practical implications for these software tools. So what we'll do is mainly, I'll tell a little bit about Socrative as an online student response system, or OSRS. And I'll briefly review a study that we conducted in the Chilean context. And then we'll finish with some practical considerations in relation to this application. So what is Socrative? This is an online student response system. It's one of the many web-based tools that teachers have to collect and share formative and also summative assessment data. In this case, we're focusing more on language assessment data. So how do they work? They show students a question created by the teacher based on the lesson, of course. This is an example there, a multiple choice. You can also use true or false items, short answers. And yes, students have to select an answer, and teachers, these answers can be used by the teacher to present overall results to the class. Maybe you've heard of Kahoot or Verso. These are other OSRSs that are available in the market. Kahoot is quite common in the Chilean context, I think. It's a little bit more colorful than Socrative. So this application can be launched by means of a web browser. So as long as your students have an internet connection, they can use their mobile devices, laptops, or computers. And it gives the teacher information in terms of averages and percentages that can be used to make informed decisions and how to organize the lesson. How can teachers do this? Based on the overall number of correct responses that they get, they can decide what to do next. Maybe they can decide to continue with the lesson if the students answered correctly, most of them. Maybe they can stop and implement an activity to reinforce learning if the answers were not correct. So there are strengths to these OSRSs. It's been documented in the literature that they improve the attitudes and the engagement of students towards classes. When they're used for formative assessment, they can increase achievement scores, and they also promote self-regulation. So learners are more aware of their own learning, and they can control how they learn by means of these tools. They also increase teacher-student interaction as perceived by learners. And this is done through the immediate feedback that students receive once they've provided the answers. They ensure anonymity as well, because students don't have to write down their own names, and these can also lower anxiety, because their names, no one will know when they are right or wrong. So there are advantages and strengths to OSRSs, but we wanted to see how students in the Chilean context would react to this application, because there may be situated factors impacting their perceptions towards Socrative. So we wanted to focus on three main components: the application's usability, its impact on learning, and its impact on engagement. And we wanted to go and ask students and what they thought about the application in these towards these three components. Very briefly, the methodology that we use here is mixed methods, quantity and quality data. Our main research question was, what is the impact of Socrative on the perceptions of learners in these three components: usability, impact on learning, and impact on engagement? We asked 23 pre-service EFL teachers in our pedagogy in English program at a private university in Santiago to participate in the study. The data collection instruments that we used were an online survey, and for this we used the CRISP questionnaire, the Classroom Response System Perceptions questionnaire, developed by Richardson et al. We adapted it, we translated it into Spanish, we deleted some items that were not useful for this context. And we also conducted focus group interviews with 6 participants because we wanted to go deeper. We wanted to gather more contextualized perceptions about the application. This is a sample of some of the items in the questionnaire. As you can see, this is a Likert scale, 5-point Likert scale from totally disagree to totally agree. And each of these items refer to a specific component. For example, item 4 here, Socrative, fue demasiado difícil de usar para mí. That belongs to the usability component. In terms of results, with this instrument, I'll tell you about some of the items. We can't really go through all of them. But in terms of usability, students were familiar, they were familiarized with these technologies. So it was quite easy for them to use the application. As you can see here with this net percent agreement, which is basically the percentage of agreement if we consider the percentage of disagreement with a particular item. So we can see that the answer here, the response to this item that Socrative was easy to use is overwhelmingly, it's very positive, overwhelmingly positive, 72.7%. In terms of perceptions regarding the impact on learning, I'll show you some examples of this. They believed that they were quite neutral when they connected the application to learning. As you can see here, 14 participants said that, yeah, they didn't really think that it enhanced their learning. They didn't think that it hindered their learning, but they were quite neutral when it came to the impact of the application on that component. Still, they would recommend the use of Socrative in other classrooms. And they liked the application because they were able to obtain instant feedback. But the answers in general were quite neutral in terms of the impact on learning. And that's why we wanted to explore these results with the focus group interviews. And finally, in terms of engagement, again, the responses were quite neutral. They didn't think that the application motivated them to learn, and that affected their engagement, as we'll see in the focus group interviews. They did think that it helped them pay more attention in class, so it made them focus more on what they were doing. And it gave them more confidence to participate in the classroom. So that is related to what I said about lowering anxiety. So the application is effective in that way. So what does it all mean? I didn't go through all the items, but in general, we can say that these students have positive perceptions towards the usability of the application. They knew how to use it, and they were fine with most of the technical aspects that are involved with using the application. But they were quite neutral when they thought about learning and how the application would increase learning. The same happened with engagement levels. They weren't that engaged with the application, and this is different from the results that have been reported in the literature. So we wanted to know why. We wanted to go deeper there. Why wouldn't they think that the application was good, was effective for learning. And yes, we had this focus group interview set up. And these are the main themes, the main factors that we identified. And these factors belong to each of these components, of course. In terms of usability, we identified familiarity with technology, technical issues, issues with instructions, with learning, lack of feedback, and what happened in the discussion sessions, and finally engagement, the layout of the application, and time management issues. All of these affected the perceptions that these students had towards Socrative. And now Rosana will tell you a little bit more about these different themes. Not all of them, but most of these themes. Rosana?
We can hear you and see you now.
Yes, yes, thank you. I was trying to unmute and I couldn't, so thank you very much for that.
That's okay.
Okay, all right. So most students had positive opinions, as Marcus said. Yes, most students had positive opinions regarding the usability of Socrative. So, for example, they said things like, it allows us to stay in a medium that most of us technically handle. It is something that belongs to us, or something I am knowledgeable about. Marco? It's easy to understand in it, and it is super basic to use. So clearly, there are advantages in terms of the usability of Socrative. However, there are some technical issues that may interfere with the efficient use of the application. One of these technical issues is the input format. Socrative can be used in computers and in cell phones, in computers, desktop computers, laptop computers, and the way the writing is done, that is to say, typewriting in a keyboard or texting in a cell phone, may influence the perceptions of the students. So, for example, one of our participants said, formal writing is hard for me, writing on the phone at least. In the computer I can, but not on the phone. And one of our participants suggested that students need to be introduced to these changes early, before tertiary education, early in their formal education, so as to, when the moment comes, they know how to navigate these new types of assessment. So Socrative is a technological tool that is not difficult to use, but when students they may struggle with it, and it forces them in a way to rethink the way they complete quizzes and tasks. So in terms of learning, students had mixed feelings. It's kind of complicated not to be able to see the answers. One of the reasons for this is that the teacher researcher utilized the application for summative assessment purposes. So by giving students the access to their original responses in the feedback session, providing instances for discussion sessions, students are able to have access to their responses and compare their mistakes against the feedback. So these adjustments may help improve the rather neutral opinions students reported regarding the overall value provided by Socrative. Thank you, Mark. So most students' perceptions regarding students, their engagement with the application was neutral. While students didn't think that Socrative encouraged them to attend lessons and increase their enjoyment of the class, they didn't disagree with these statements either. And the inclusions, they reported that the inclusions of colors, of images to support instructions, to complement instructions, could have had a positive impact on their perception of engagement. Most students reported that with Socrative, they felt more confident in class. And they believe that assessments that are carried out by means of Socrative can lower students' anxiety, as they are familiarized with using their mobile phones. So, for example, they shared something like, for example, it calms us down somehow. We release the anxiety that can block us from remembering the content that we know. I think it decreases a little the anxiety of writing a giant paragraph in paper. It is much more inexpensive and eco-friendly. And one of the participants suggested that that teachers should identify students that are experiencing emotions such as distress and anxiety using the application, as these issues may not be directly related to the online students' response system. But it must be noted that even though anxiety levels seem to be a relevant issue for some students, the teacher reported that when the students were offered the two options to take a quiz by using pen and paper and or using Socrative, all of them preferred Socrative. So this suggests that there is a strong preference towards the use of the application of the online student response system. And this was confirmed by the CRISP's questionnaires findings on usability. So what does this all mean? Learners reported their familiarity with using mobile phones and applications in general. The layout of the instructions may impact learners' perceptions of usability and engagement. The addition of images and colorful layouts can increase engagement levels as students use the application. The feedback sessions conducted after Socrative was used can benefit from improving the discussion that is created between the teacher and the students while correct answers are checked. And finally, the fact that students are more confident to participate in class as they use the application should be used to create more instances where Socrative can be a source for learning, which can in turn generate engagement towards the application. So now I would like to share my experience in the classroom. And why Socrative? Socrative has many advantages. It is user-friendly, it is intuitive, reliable, it is constantly updated. In fact, the image issue is now solved. It offers real-time data, and you can access individual PDFs for each student and also an Excel spreadsheet with all the results. That also includes statistics. It has multiple applications. There is a free version and a pro version. And of course, there are some disadvantages, but the only two disadvantages I could think of are the fact that you cannot use audio files, you cannot upload your audio files to the quizzes yet, and the free version only allows one quiz at a time. You can only launch one quiz at a time, only one room, one group of students. This is an example of a table where you see the students' answers in real time. Then you have an example of a spreadsheet. This is what you get, what you can download. And the good thing about this is that you can modify it, that you can adjust it to your own needs. It's an Excel spreadsheet with all the results. And thinking about some useful applications, of course, for formative assessment in quizzes as a clicker, for summative assessment to assess listening comprehension, reading comprehension, and writing. Also for mock tests. Yes, I used it for PET, mock tests, and also the TOEIC for surveys, and finally for group building or team building and group work, so as to include an element of gamification in your lesson. So now I go back to Marco.
Yes, so that was our presentation. If you want to know more about Socrative and about the study that we conducted, this is the reference and the QR code if you want to have direct access on your mobile phone. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. That was a very interesting presentation. And I'm going to now open the floor for questions that may come from the audience. Valentina, who is part of the team, is going to support us with that. Valentina, I have requested for you to be unmuted. Are you okay to start?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have finished the 20-minute presentation from Marco and Rosana. And so now we would like to open the floor for participants in case they have any questions. If you have any questions, we would appreciate if you let us know by raising your hand in the participants button. I don't know if you know how to do that though, so.
They can use the chat window, right, as well?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Valentina?
Christopher has a question. He wants to know what was your theoretical framework for this investigation?
Well, in terms of theoretical framework, we were trying to find theory, and we thought about sociocultural theory at the beginning in a way to connect what they already know about a particular content and how they make connections with what with the new information. And we were trying to connect that to this. And the idea that we presented here about having students access their original responses, I think it ties into that, into how they can connect what they know, or maybe what they may not know correctly, with the new information. And we think that the feedback that is discussed with the application after it is used, that will help learners go towards this zone of proximal development. And this is what we were thinking in terms of theoretical framework. But in general, we were trying to assess how these students would react to these technologies, new technologies in the classroom, but in particular with these online student response systems that are part of a gamified approach to teaching any type of subject. But those are the main ideas that we had in terms of framework for the study.
We have another question. It is, do you think this application is suitable and friendly for 4th and 5th graders in schools?
Yeah.
Rosana?
Yes, well, definitely. It's so versatile that you can apply it in every context. Yes, there are so many applications, but definitely for elementary school graders. Yes, definitely. And so you can include images, as I mentioned in my presentation. That was not possible before. Images were very tiny in the original version, so they changed that was updated, and now you have very good. You can include all the images you want. Yes, so that is a very positive change in the application. So that helps a lot with elementary school.
Yes, and I would also suggest that you have a look at the other OSRSs in the market. Like I said, Kahoot.
Yeah, Kahoot. Yeah.
Yeah, it may have a more colorful layout.
And music also as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so some applications will give you more possibilities that you can adapt to your own students.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? We only have about 3 minutes left.
Jonathan wants to know if it is time consuming to prepare this app for a lesson?
No, not at all. It's extremely easy to use. And the good thing is that everything you do is there. Yes, so you can access it as many times as you want. The only requirement is that you have to create an account for the teacher, because students do not need to have accounts to access the application. And very, very easy to use, very reliable, and it saves a lot of time.
And I also wanted to point out that it also reduces the time that teachers have to have or allocate for checking answers, because it gives you averages, percentages that you can use to make these informed decisions in the classroom. And the response, the perceptions of students were overwhelmingly positive. I could say that word. So yes, in that way, it reduces time when you prepare the activities, and also when you have to check for the responses.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't have any more questions. If anybody has any question, we have 1 minute left. Okay, I think that's all we have. Do we have anything else, Valentina?
No, we have people are thanking the presenters for this research.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Marco and Rosana, for your participation. Thank you very much for sharing with us such an interesting research. So we really appreciate the time and effort that you put into the research and you put into this presentation. And so without further ado, I would like to close the room just to create time for the break time for people to go and grab, I don't know, water, just a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and thanking again the presenters from Universidad Andrés Bello that just finished their talk now, and just giving 10 minutes for break for the next presenters, okay? So thank you, Marco and Rosana, again. See you all, for those interested in the next presentation, in the next 10 minutes. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.